What's up guys, NoHandedShooter here. Today we are putting together a new DMR for myself. You guys saw the 1450 yard video. I've had that rifle for a long time. However, I wanted to make some upgrades to it. Instead of me just going and show you guys a new video of me shooting it, we're gonna build it together. So we're gonna start with the upper and go into the lower receiver as well as the optic, and I'm going to kind of go into detail about why I chose certain parts that you can save money on and not actually have to buy the most expensive item, and then other parts that you need. So we're going to just kind of get right into it. So first off, I have a Armalite upper receiver. However, upper receivers in my opinion do not really matter. As long as you have something that is in spec, you're good to go. I go ahead and typically lap all of my receivers to get a good fit with the barrel. This one I've already done, so I'm not gonna do that on video now, but however, I usually do that to gain a little bit of better accuracy and just proper fitment. Usually I have much better grease that I put in here or bedding compound. However, I don't have any of that right now. So we're gonna go with good old Breakthrough clean gun grease. And now, is this necessary? I don't know. I've built tons and tons of rifles without even greasing it. But I find that this makes taking it apart and putting it back together a little bit easier if you go into some really in-depth cleaning. Forgot to do this. But the barrel we chose for this build is a Proof Research 223 Wild 1-in-8 twist 18-inch rifle length gas system barrel. This is actually the barrel from my old 18-inch that you guys saw in the video, but it's still got plenty of life on it and really didn't want to just toss it for poops and giggles. So I'm gonna keep this barrel, I'm gonna shoot it out, then I'm gonna swap. So we're just gonna slide this bad boy in there. We're gonna take our barrel nut, and as per Geissele specs on this guy, we're going to torque it to 40 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench and you work on your guns, you are definitely messing up. You need a torque wrench in your life. I like to kind of pull back on the receiver as I'm doing this, just to make sure I don't damage anything. I've heard of these vice blocks actually breaking off the ears of the receiver. However, I've never had that problem, and I've used one of these since like 2013, so I'm just gonna keep on chug-a-lugging. Next, we're gonna go to our RifleSpeed gas block. This is the adjustable gas block I use pretty much on every rifle I have now. You can get different size sheaths or shrouds, whatever they're called. So you can go with different handguard lengths, different barrels, things of that nature, and get the perfect fit for you. Being able to adjust your gas on the fly, whether you're shooting suppressed or even in a competitive scenario where you're going between different ammunitions, or if it's very dirty or it's even cold outside, that affects your gun's reliability a ton, and being able to just adjust that real quick right before you start shooting without the need of tools is so nice. I've had great luck with these on every gun I've put them on, and will continue to do so every single time. So with this gas block, it's gonna be, I have a little bit of marring on the bottom because this is one of the original proof barrels from back in the day, before they started dimpling their stuff. So I have a little bit of marring on the bottom of the barrel from the set screws, but that's okay. We're just gonna push it on, it'll be fine. All right, so next, we're gonna install my gas block set screws. I don't have an alignment rod, however, I do kind of have dimples at this point from previous set screws. So we're gonna kind of base it off of that. Grab my trusty dusty hammer, give it a light tap. Perfect. All right. And we're gonna use red Loctite on this bad boy. What I like to typically do is when I have it set as well, before I go ahead and put the screws in, I'll just give it a good old eyeball. Most of the time, even if you're off a little bit, you're still gonna have all the gas you need, but perfection is the name of the game with accurate gas guns. So we're gonna do everything right. So we're gonna get our set screws here. Since I have no hands, I typically like to go ahead and put the screw on the Allen key before I pick it up. And then I can just put Loctite on it real easy. Boop. I kind of go a little overboard sometimes with the Loctite on these, but I don't think that's a big problem because a little heat just takes them right off if you ever need to take it off. But I've had gas blocks come loose mid-stage before, and that is not a fun experience. So, better safe than sorry. All right. I'll get it pretty tight, not like crazy tight. Then I'll put the other one in, just so it doesn't shift when I'm trying to put the other screw. And then I'll go back, and you can use a torque wrench for this, and it's probably recommended. However, I just go by the feel of how the Allen key starts to flex. I get it to the stopping point, and then I just give it probably like 10 inch-pounds more. That one's good. And I get the other one pretty much the same weight. And that's just coming from doing it so many times. Like I said, always recommend a torque wrench, because breaking these off and having to drill it out or deal with stripped screws is not fun. So do it the right way. All right, do as I say, not as I do. Next, we're going to install our muzzle device. So the muzzle device I will be using is going to be a Thunderbeast Armscore SR non-timed mount. So the cool thing about the non-timed mount is I don't need a crush washer, I don't need shims, I literally just screw it on, good to go. Downside of the non-timed mount is, I mean, you can shoot it without a suppressor, but you're not gonna have any advantages of like a muzzle brake or something like that. It's kind of gonna be the same effect as a flash hider without the perks of a flash hider, because it just shoots gas all around. And when you're shooting prone in the sandy environments that we shoot in, that kind of sucks sometimes. So, shoot suppressed. So since I'm not using a crush washer or anything, I'm gonna put a little bit of red Loctite on there. Not too much, just enough. And get it all over my shirt, because that's exactly what we want to do. And then we're gonna get this guy on. This is also an item or a piece that you should probably do proper torque specs on. However, we're gonna go back to that feel technique for this, because I've done it enough times that I feel like it's gonna be pretty good. So I just get to the point to where it stops, and then I'm probably giving another like 45 inch-pounds if I had to guess. And that's good to go. So that is pretty much done. Next, we move on to our handguard. So the handguard that I decided to go with for this build is the Geissele Mark 16 rail, I believe. So it's the full M-lock all the way around. You got your QD swivels. And I've also got this paired with another item that we're gonna show in a minute. We will mount next. But I really like these handguards. They're super rigid. Geissele actually helped out with quite a few parts for this build. They provided me with the handguard as well as the trigger. Really become a big fan of their products. They are rigid as fuck, and I've grown to really like that. I've usually been a BCM kind of guy, but since I've went to these, I have not turned back. So how we're gonna start the mount, we're gonna actually torque these down as well, but I'm just gonna get it started. Get it nub tight. And then we're gonna get the alignment screws set as well. And then we're gonna go ahead and torque these down. I do not remember the proper torque specs to these, but I have been doing 65 inch-pounds on my fix-it sticks, and that's been great. So I'm gonna continue to do that. Now with these alignment screws, I actually just kind of done it too tight there. So what you wanna do is when you get one side touching the receiver, then move to the other side and get it touching as well before you start to kind of tighten it, or else you're just gonna shift your handguard over and it's not gonna be in alignment. Next, we're going to move to our fix-it sticks. If you do not have a torque wrench in your life, you need one. These are my favorite. I use these things all the time. This is the fix-it stick kit. We're gonna have prices for most of these items below on the screen if you haven't seen those already. So we'll kind of give you a running tally on these things. So far, just to keep track, there are definitely items that you need to splurge with and put all the money into, and there's items that it really doesn't matter. So far, receiver, doesn't matter, get whatever. Barrel, get a high quality barrel. Spend all your money on the barrel. I have a Proof Research Carbon 18-inch. Love that barrel. There's other great barrels out there. This is what I've ran forever and I love them. Again, the RifleSpeed Gas Block, in my opinion, is a must-have. It is so nice having the ability to change stuff on the fly. Muzzle device doesn't really matter. That goes into what you're running. Are you running a suppressor? No. Okay, get a good muzzle device, like a tunable muzzle brake or something to really keep that muzzle rise down when you're shooting distance so you can spot your impacts and make follow-ups on target. I went with the best of both worlds. I have the Thunder Beast Magnus K RR SR. Yeah. This is their new, I would say, competitive suppressor for like the PRS style shooting. This gives you that real soft recoil impulse of a suppressor along with the recoil mitigation of a muzzle device. So it literally is like the best of both worlds. I'm gonna be doing some cool stuff with these. I have the bigger version as well as this one. In future videos, shooting big guns, they're freaking insane. But the short one I thought would be perfect. Done. And you can also go in and time this brake however you need to. For different guns and things like that, you're obviously going to line up differently. So you just loosen this, adjust, good to go. Mine's set already because I had it on there. Easy peasy. Next, let's do the M-Lock. Or the Arca Rail. I'm sorry. It is an M-Lock Arca Rail. This is the MDT Arca Rail. I believe this is the 10.25 inch version. I really like MDT's products. I run their chassis. I run a lot of their accessories for the PRS world. So I just thought it'd be a great fit for this rifle. Love the company and figured why not support. So for a disclaimer as well, I bought a lot of these items for this rifle and I did have some given to me. I will kind of list what was given and what was paid for, or at least kind of mention it going throughout the video. Proof barrel was technically given to me a long time ago. However, I still choose to buy their barrels for a lot of my rifles. I am messing with the Unrivaleds now, but Proof still has a place in my heart forever as being some of the best barrels of all time. The Thunder Beast can was given to me to do some competing with. The RifleSpeed block I actually purchased myself. I love those. I've gotten some free ones in the past, and we're gonna be working together on building the nubs gun and actually selling it on the market. But I love their products, and I have them in every gun, and I feel terrible asking for free stuff all the time. So I just bought a bunch of them. And then the receiver, I mean, I guess I technically got that for free too, but no biggie. Next, we're gonna go with the bolt carrier group. I have a American Defense Manufacturing bolt carrier group from another gun. However, I took the bolt out of the old 18-inch build that I was shooting with before. It had great accuracy, so I'm hoping that it's still going to do so. I haven't shot this since I tore it apart. I actually put it together and then realized I was gonna do this video, so I tore it apart and rebuilt it, or tore it apart earlier today. But I'm really curious to see how it actually performs compared to the old one. I have a feeling it's gonna be pretty much the same because a lot of the main internals haven't changed, but you never know with these things. I probably should have cleaned it. Would have probably been an okay thing to do. Cleaning is for people that don't lube, and we lube everything. If there was any item that could be changed on the AR-15 design, what would it be? I have a few ideas that I think would be like really good changes that no one's done yet, and I don't know why. What do you think? I think making a set screw instead of a roll pin on the gas block is by far my number one. The gas tube roll pins are so stupid. All right, so we got the upper. Oh, and of course we have the Radian Talon charging handle. Everybody and their brother does. It's like the main charging handle. However, I have been using the Geissele SCH recently, and I am really digging it. I have it on the nubs gun right now, and I think that's the one we're gonna use for the actual nubs upper that we launch. But you know, you can't go wrong with a good old-fashioned Radian. All right, so this is the upper so far. Let's hop onto the lower, and then we'll put an optic on this bad boy, and then we'll go shoot it. Oh yeah. Oh, we forgot the key crucial part of this build. Without this build is nothing. Suppressor cover. Bam. Ugh. So suppressor covers are a must in the long range world, mainly due to the Mirage. Once you fire a couple rounds suppressed, your scope just becomes so blurry you can't see anything. And with it being a gas gun, and you have the gas blocks heating up, gas tubes, the barrel, suppressor, everything, you really start to struggle. So getting rid of as much of that heat as you can is gonna help you in the long run. All right, so next, we're gonna start with the lower. This is pretty special. So this is the Shield Arms folding lower. Shield Arms sent me this to do a video on, and I thought, what a perfect gun to build this off of. So you guys know I like the folding side of things. However, with all folders, they come loose all the time. There's issues always. Fitment changes and stuff just gets wonky. They're heavy, so I take them off. This is actually built into the lower receiver itself. There's no finicky parts. There's no plunger in your bolt carrier group you have to install, or spacer. Literally, it folds, you're good to go. You can pop the upper and lower off without having to take that plunger out of the back as well. We're gonna show you more about how sweet this is as we start putting it together. But thanks Shield Arms for sending this out. I've actually been really impressed with it so far, and really excited to see what this bad boy will do. So we're gonna do the mag catch first so that I can get this setting on my vice block. All right, we're gonna put this on here, spin it around, and we're gonna try and shove that in. But we're gonna have to worry about timing now, which is gonna be kind of rough, but that's all right. We gotta get it up here. Improvise, make it work. It's a better view anyways. Oh yeah, there we go. It just took a little loving. All right, so now that we got it started, we're gonna take an Allen key that's kind of big. We're just gonna push it in all the way. I typically have it to where the screw is flush, if not a little bit inset. You wanna be able to push the mag release out and it not catch, so that's actually not far enough in. All right, and then if you can take your finger and push all the way in, and if the mag catch comes out, you need some more. So that's good. We got that bad boy installed. Next, we're gonna do the bolt catch. All these are just random mil-spec parts, nothing fancy. This is some random bolt catch that has the bottom pad. I think it came off like a SIG M400 or something. But it will get the job done. So we're gonna take our spring, we're gonna insert that into the little hole. We're gonna take our plunger, insert it as well. What's nice about this lower is it doesn't have a roll pin, it has a set screw. So installation is pretty straightforward. We're gonna go ahead and get that set in there, and we're gonna see if I can do this without dropping anything. Lower parts kit stuff, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. If you wanna buy a quality LPK, go ahead. I don't really care typically. I don't buy an Anderson LPK, but I don't go and spend a ton of money on one either. And I have no idea what torque specs on this is. I'm just gonna get that pretty much nub tight and call it a day. Yep, and I'm not even gonna crank it. All right, so that's good. That feels good. All right, next we're going to go with, let's do the trigger. All right, so for this build, I chose the Geissele SSAE. I run this in pretty much all of my other rifles as well, PCC, the Nubs rifle, pretty much everything. Used to hate two-stage triggers and still kind of prefer a single stage. However, I bump fire single stage is pretty bad, and that's not fun whenever you're not expecting it. So this two-stage has been my favorite two-stage that I have found. The SSAE is actually pretty slick with the fact that your first stage on a normal two-stage is heavier, or is usually lighter than your second stage, but on the SSAE, it's heavier on the first stage and lighter on the second stage, which is pretty unique and has a crazy reset as well. There's no reason why you can't run this trigger in a long range setup and a competitive carbine kind of setup. It has so many applications that it can be used in. Can't recommend it enough. So once we get the trigger pin installed on the rear, we're gonna tap out this slave pin and it's going to shoot across the bench, which is fine. We're gonna push that one in, we're good to go. Next, we're gonna take our safety. I believe this is a Wilson Combat safety. You guys have had questions on why my safety looks weird in the past. All I've actually done is taken a Dremel and cut out the center of that so that I can mount it perpendicular instead of parallel, and that's pretty much all she wrote. So if you like the way that is, a lot of people have actually shot my rifle and preferred it, so they can just flick with their index finger back on. You can do it yourself now. Easy as that. So we're gonna install that piece of we're gonna put the safety in, and then we're going to put in our hammer. What I like to do is I will start my trigger pin to where it's just set inside, it's not penetrating through the receiver. And then I'll take my hammer, I will press it down with one nub, push this one in, and then I'll actually set it. And then I'll take my hammer, and we're good to go. Plastic. Easy as that. Then we'll check for function. I'll usually go and feel with my nubs, make sure that they're not protruding on one side more than the other. We're gonna try with safety on. Nothing. Safety off. Works like a dream. Perfect. All right, so now we're going to go to the buffer tube. So this is a little different than your standard installation, but pretty much the same. Instead of your buffer detent and spring, you don't have to worry about that anymore. There is actually a set screw built into the bottom of the receiver that has the buffer detent attached to it. So once you push the buffer in, you just slightly screw it up and you're good to go. Whenever you want to pull the buffer out, loosen that screw, comes right out. Pretty slick, because I hate buffer detents and springs. Having to run all of the unrivaled parts that I do, you can't have buffer detents and springs in, so I'm always having to take them out, and I hate it. But it's the price we pay for wanting good stuff. So we're gonna take the buffer tube. This buffer tube I have no idea where this came from. This is also not a very important part. I've just ran like the cheapest ones I could find most of the time. I get like BCM or Aero Precision or something like that. That doesn't really matter. There are some cool ones out there though, like American Defense Manufacturing makes one that has like 9 or 12 positions or something like that. That's pretty slick, but if you don't really care about all that, I run mine closed 90% of the time, so I don't need that. Just a cheapo works fine. Spend all your money on your barrel, your handguard, gas block, trigger, optic. And lowers honestly have some pretty cool features these days as well. The only thing that I wish this lower had, like it's almost perfect, I just want an A and B control on the right side for bolt. I don't use it like ever. However, like going to a rifle that doesn't have it, I still feel kind of lost, like it should be there. So I think having an ambi control unit on this would definitely make this a little bit nicer, but that's not the end of the world. Oh yeah, we're good. Dexterity. All right, let's make sure we're still aligned properly. We are definitely not. I guess it said I want to be right there, but I can't be. So we're gonna leave it right there. Next, we're gonna take our end plate. We're gonna shove it up against the rear so it goes in that little detent hole or that space for it, so our buffer tube doesn't spin anymore. I'm gonna get it remotely tight, make sure everything's set where it needs to be. It looks good. And then we're going to tighten this. This should be at like, I don't know, I want to say 40 foot-pounds maybe. Look that up. I'm gonna go with feel again. Once I get it to where it doesn't move anymore, give it just a little bit more and call it a day. Never had one of these come loose. Check for alignment. That's still good. Beautiful. All right. Next, I went with the B5 Precision stock. I wanted the short one, however, I believe this is the normal one. I think they sent me the wrong one, but that's fine. It actually worked out pretty good. I have a little bit of extra space on there. The main reason I went with this was due to having an adjustable cheek riser. When you're shooting long range, you want to have your gun set perfectly to you, so whenever you're going into random positions and things like that, it's right where it needs to be. Normal stocks, you don't really have that luxury. However, this guy kind of gives the best of both worlds. I hate rifle stocks because my length of pull is so short, I actually can't reach the trigger anymore with a full length stock. But all the stocks with adjustment typically are in rifle length, so this is a pretty slick setup. Been wanting to get one of these for a long time, but just never bit the bullet, so pretty glad I did. Next, one of my favorite parts is actually, we have to do another part first. Next, we're gonna put in our rear takedown pin. Cool part about this is, as you saw earlier, how easy it was to install the buffer tube. We don't have that detent spring on the back. We have the detent spring right on the bottom like you would see in an AR-10, which makes installation, in my opinion, much easier without having to deal with all the BS from your end plate and castle nut. So we're gonna shove our little detent in there. We got our takedown spring. I'm gonna go ahead and close it. There's no real reason to, but I usually do that. Our grip, Driven Arms Co. VCG. I have these on pretty much everything I run. Love these grips. Brett's a great dude. He sends me a ton of blims. I wrap tape on them, paint them. I don't care if they look funky in color anyway. But I've been running the shit out of these. I love them. For the long range perspective, I think it's great because you have that 90-degree grip angle. You can really have your hand set in that perfect firing position when shooting PRS for accuracy stuff. But for also on CQB guns and stuff, when you're running the stock real short and you're on plates and you want to be tucked in, your hands at the proper angle as well. So best of both worlds for me, big fan of it. What I typically do with mounting pistol grips is I will shove the screw into the hole from up top, get it started, get in there, bam, good to go. I'll take my safety detent spring. We're gonna go ahead and install our safety detent before I forget that. I'll take my safety detent spring, put it in the hole. And typically what I do as well with the safety spring is I'll cut 2 coils off so that my safety still is very firm and it's not like slipping or anything, but it's really easy to manipulate, and when you're trying to do go fast stuff, it's quite nice. Everyone hates stiff safeties, so I say cut that spring, dude. All right, so installation with the pistol grip, you got to kind of be real smooth with it because it wants to pop like that, and that rear spring becomes quite a bit of a pain in the ass. Bam. All right, that's perfect. And then with this, I just get it to where it stops, give it a little bit more, call it a day. You get it by now. All right. Next. Oh, I forgot the most important part. Your Skittles container. Beep. All right, now we're gonna install our buffer spring and our buffer. So this is a proprietary buffer that goes with their lower. Like in the law folders, you have that piece that goes in the back of your bulk carrier group. This, however, attaches to the buffer, so you don't have to deal with any of that stuff when folding or anything like that. So what we're gonna do is, if you want to trust it like that, you can. I think that's scary as hell, but I'm gonna do it anyways for entertainment. The buffer is sitting on the buffer detent by a hair. And then we're going to tighten this detent so that it locks it in. There we go. Bam. And it ain't going nowhere. That was fucking scary, I'm not gonna lie. I just saw that buffer landing on my Zico. All right. Almost done with the lower. Next, we're adding our finishing touches to our nub safety. We're gonna toss that in there. Make sure we're on safe. And then I mount mine in the vertical position. Get it started. And this is probably set at like 20 inch-pounds too. Nothing crazy. Make sure it's lined up properly. Went in the holes. Tight. And we are all set. Lower is complete. We're gonna pop these pins out and then let's get our optic mounted. She's coming together. All right, so I go rear first, then front. You don't have to, you can do whatever the hell you want, but I do that so that the upper doesn't fall forward, because that is annoying. All right, let's go ahead and toss our bipod on. All right, so the bipod I chose for this build is the Thunderbeast Arms Core bipod. There's a lot of bipods on the market, a lot of really good ones. I run the MDT for all my competition stuff. However, I truly believe if you're gonna buy one bipod and nothing else, this is the best way to go. Quick use, push the buttons, it deploys, you don't have to worry about any of that. To actually deploy the bipod as well, you just push it right out, super easy. Instead of having buttons and stuff like that, no reason to go that route. And we have it on a really Right Stuff Arca mount. Voila, we are looking good. Next, we have our optic mount, and I'm gonna try and not spill all of the screws here. But this is the SPR, I do not remember, it's a 6016. This is a cantilever mount for 36 millimeter tubes, which is your big boy stuff. That's what I wanted to not happen. Before I was rudely interrupted. I can't remember if I wanted to mount it. Yep, I mount it right here. All right, so what I will do is I'm gonna grab the mount by the rear and slide it forward. And I'm gonna get them nub tight per order that it says on the mount, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. If you don't have numbers on yours, kind of stagger that if there's 4 screws as well. Like 2, 3, 1, 4, that kind of order, just so everything stays even. Now we're going to take our torque wrench with our 45 inch-pound limiter, and we're gonna get these bad boys torqued. So we're gonna start with 1. I don't even go full torque yet. I just get it to about the same spot with each, which is probably at like 30. Get them all tight. And then I go in and torque. Bam. Three, 4. And then once I have them torqued, I'll go back and do it again, and you'll notice your torque moves a little bit because all that metal is adjusting and loosening the rest up. So make sure they're all torqued and not moving. Sometimes I'll do it 2 times, sometimes I'll do it like 4 times. You'll just go until your limiter is no longer moving. Next, we're gonna grab our 20 inch-pound limiter. Same bit. And then we're gonna put our scope on. So normally, when I'm mounting a scope, I would actually mount the optic with a proper plumb bob or other mounting solutions, magnets, things like that with levels. I am going to use SPR's easy little tool to get us pretty close. Now it's not perfect, however, a lot of times it has gotten me pretty much exactly where I needed to be without having to do all of the BS. So what we're gonna do is there is a cut on the receiver here that we're going to slide this wedge into, and it's going to put upward pressure up onto the bottom of our scope, and it's going to get us a level from the scope mount. So the reason this doesn't work all the time is sometimes your receiver or whatever you're mounting it on isn't properly level or in spec, and then you're gonna have some issues. That's why you wanna make sure you use a plumb bob to actually mount everything. However, with just simplicity of life here, we're gonna use this. And I'm gonna have this pretty centered up. I'm gonna check and see eye relief in a minute. I believe this is where I had it before. Oh, I didn't even talk about this piece. This is the Kahles K328i. This is the model I've been running on my competition gun for like a year and a half now. This has by far the biggest field of view of any of the optics out there on the market. But with it having its smaller frame, it looks kind of goofy on bolt actions. Their new K540i is a little bit longer and is a little bit more fitting. So I thought this would be the perfect gas gun optic. You have massive field of view. It's a 3.5 to 28, so I have tons of versatility and magnification. And I'm not really sacrificing much. The size is a little bit heavy and bulky, but like if you're comparing it to a 2-10 Leupold or a Night Force NX8 or something like that, like you're not really losing that much in terms of mobility and weight. It's, in my opinion, gonna be the shit. I'm really excited to play with it. Only cons that I have about this optic, and it's not even an optics fault, it's just I can't mount my trigger cam to this optic because it has such a big eye box, which kind of sucks for content, but boo-hoo, you know? It's not the end of the world. So I'm gonna try and get this as square as possible to the center. I can't go all the way because my scope is bottomed out. Well, I backed it off just a little bit from being bottomed out, but that's gonna be good enough. What I'm gonna do now, before I put my wedge in, is just get the screws started so they don't fall out on me. All right. So now we're gonna take our wedge, we're gonna shove it on the bottom. We're gonna leave that there. And we're going to not go crazy tight with these. We're just gonna get them even and barely hand tight so that we can pull the wedge out. If we crank this down, we're gonna damage our scope, and that would not be fun. So I'm just checking to make sure the gap is the same on both the top and the bottom of your rings. You want that to be even before you start torquing. I'm just getting it to where it stops. Like I'm not even spinning hard. It's just getting it to where it touches metal. And that's all we're trying to do here. And then we'll pull our wedge out and then we'll properly torque everything. And if the wedge did its job, we should be level. All right, so now we're gonna pull out our wedge and now we're gonna do all this again. Now we're gonna go, I like to start top. I spin it just a little bit to where it stops. And then I go middle top, middle bottom, top left, bottom right, top right, bottom left. It's typically how I do these mounts. I'll get it to where it stops, and then I'm gonna go in and torque. And see, that one was still loose. So we torqued that one. Torque top right, bottom right, top right, bottom left. And we're just gonna repeat this process until the torque wrench no longer moves, just like we did with the base. Now this is really important because if you don't set proper torque to your optics and your gun comes unzeroed randomly, you no longer have a precision instrument and defeats the purpose of what we are building. So buy a torque wrench, don't be a jackass. You can get away with some things not being torqued like we've done in the video. Torque your optics. No excuse for that. So now let's add on some accessories. We've already got our sunshade installed. However, we are going to set that at the proper spot. I like my covers to go to the right because I'm seeing on my left side with peripheral vision. I have my send it level and other stuff on the left, so I want to be able to see over there. Same with this guy. Have it on the right. Perfect. All right, next, we're going to install our optic mount for our piggyback. This piggyback does not serve the purpose that most people would imagine a piggyback would be used for. I use this strictly for indexing targets. I do a pretty good job at indexing targets, and I honestly don't think I've ever used this in a situation before. But it looks cool, and I've seen people use it in matches, so I put it on there as well. It's all about looking cool. However, you could utilize an actual piggyback optic if you were to do this yourself. I have mine mounted in this weird position, so I can't really shoot with it. But I have other things on my gun as well, so it kind of hinders me from having a top dot. But this gun is not a gun that I'm using at 10 yards for paper targets. So doesn't really matter. If I'm having to use it at 10 yards, I can point and call it a day. The optic that I have is a Vortex Venom. I have a bunch of these random micro dots laying around from the good old days, and figured why not give them a home and put it right here. And it actually works pretty well for another purpose, and that is indexing point on my nub. The way I actually mount when I'm doing barricade work, in combination with the send it level, the chalkboard, and this, my nub like sits perfect and allows me to control recoil really well by just putting downward pressure on the gun. That's kind of cool. Next, we have our whiteboard, which I do not remember who made this. Hawk Hill Customs. I love this thing. They make a spur direct mount, so you don't have to have a piece of Picatinny or anything. It just mounts straight into your spur accessory holes, and you're good to go. And I do a 20 inch-pound torque on all spur accessories. So that's anything from bubble levels to Picatinny rails, chalkboards. I do 20 on everything. You can get away with going with 25 as well if you don't have the 20 inch-pound limiter. I used 25 for a while, but since I bought one, I just figured why not. Last but not least, our send it level. So this you guys have seen in prior videos. This is my bubble level from NDT. It's fucking sick. Who wants to watch water and bubbles when you could just have a green dot say go? And you know me, all gas, no brakes, baby. So I want to go fast. So I'm gonna set this in line with the last piece of Picatinny, and I can see that it's perfectly flush. I'm gonna crank down nub tight, turn it off, and this is, in my opinion, the perfect long-range 223 build. Let's go shoot it. All right, so we made it to the great and beautiful Empire Gun Club. Unfortunately, we don't have distance to really push this thing, but I definitely wanted to shoot it for you guys in the video, so we're gonna do some groups at 100 yards, get this thing somewhat zeroed. I have no idea where it's gonna hit, but we're just gonna show you the good stuff. We'll do chronoing and all that other stuff another day. We will be doing another thing with this soon, doing some cool shooting, but for now, you just get the teaser. So let's put this guy in. We've got our 77 grain Bone Frog ammo. I love this stuff. It shoots fantastic. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we're gonna shoot this stuff and see what she do. Let's see if I totally ruined my gun or not. So we got a bit of an adjustment made. Let's see if that fixed or got us closer. We were way off. Here we go. Better. All right, let's see what that does. This was set for a 22 last, so that makes sense. There we are. All right, I see ya. All right, we are 0.8 low. And .5. Right, so we need to go left, 2.5. Not too bad. I definitely need to shoot more groups with it to kind of tighten it down. I'm moving a little bit, not used to the 2-stage in a accurate like group shooting, you know, style setting, but it's good enough. We'll pop a few more rounds off and then we'll go look at the target. All right. So we got 3 groups down there. My shooting was moderately fast. I definitely don't shoot gas guns enough in a prone, let me shoot one hole groups like I do with bolt guns. But, you know, with time and practice, I definitely think this gun will do that. I had terrible natural point of aim. My bag, like I had my nub in between my bag and my gun, and that's like a #1 no-no rule, but I did it anyway. So the fact that I shot groups this tight is actually pretty nice. I think we're on to something here. So what did we learn? We learned that you don't have to spend a ton of money on every single part that you put into the gun, but there are some parts that definitely make all the difference in the world. Trigger, barrel, optic. Gas block definitely helps. It's not the end all be all, but being able to fine tune that gas definitely makes a good bit of difference when doing practical shooting. If you're just trying to have something to lay prone with all day. It's not the end of the world. However, if you are running suppress, you're gonna want one with all that gas. But those are the main points that you definitely want to spend money on. Suppressors, if you have one, run it. Definitely check and see if your gun shoots well with the suppressor as well as without the suppressor, because that can make a difference. Some cans aren't as concentric as others, and that can definitely throw off your harmonics and ballistics and all that hoopla doopla stuff. So if you're shooting suppressed and you're having really bad issues with grouping, take your can off, see what it does. So this is what we got. For reference, these are slightly less than 1 inch pasters. I think it's like, I don't know. I don't remember. It's like 7/8 size or something like that. But we have, this was the one where I finally found where it was on paper. I made an adjustment. I was aiming here. I still need to fine tune in 0, but I don't care about any of that right now. That's a little bit less than a nub's width. That one's a little less than a nub's width. And that one's definitely less than a nub's width. So that's like 3/4 MOA. I could definitely probably get it down to half MOA if I actually didn't shoot like a jackass, but I think we did it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would you build a setup like this? If you would, is there anything you would change on it? Also, should I paint this guy or not? You guys know I paint all of my shit. It looks really good though. I'm really torn on whether or not I should paint it. So make sure you put that down below in the comments. Also like, comment, subscribe. You guys know the drill. YouTube hates my guts. We are finally making waves though. Thank you guys so much for the support this past few weeks. We've had some videos pop off and really appreciate you guys for that. So we're gonna keep chugging along. We got a few new badass videos coming real soon, so make sure you stay tuned for that. And until then, no excuses. I run the, I feel like I'm doing a cooking show. It feels weird. Next, we're gonna take the onions and we're gonna put them in the bowl. Next, we're gonna take the bowl and we're gonna put it on the counter. Sure. That's how we should have done this video. We just did it fucking Ozzy's way. All right, we'll go back to this.